What's up, YouTube? It's waba, and I am taking a little bit of time to give you another update on the fire trap build and how it's going. Now, frankly, I actually haven't progressed too much because at this point it's pretty much just leveling, and I don't know. I've just picked up a couple pieces of gear to even out my resists, and yeah. So let's just go ahead and talk about it a little bit. First off, just in case this is the first time you're seeing this build. Recently, Octavian, I believe, put out a guide, which is actually, he's more or less playing this build, which I had no idea he was doing this. So, but, there's a lot of parallel thinking in Path of Exile. He has a guide on it. It is for standard. I'm playing in hardcore. I don't know if I would actually recommend this build for hardcore, because it does leave me feeling a little, there's some situations where I do feel like a little yikes about, because you kind of don't have a lot of health and you don't really have too many layers of defense on your build. Maybe if you were to pick up arrow dancing, because that's actually the biggest threat that I have right now. It's just projectiles. And you don't really get that much evasion. On's Heritage gives you a lot of armor, but that's not really that effective. I don't know. There's just some, there's definitely some room for this build defensively, but I might be able to figure out some ways around that, and I will discuss that more at the end of the video. But let's go ahead and just go into a map real quick. I am level 79. This is a fire trap, crit fire trap build based off of just utilizing damage effectiveness, Malachi's Awakening, Shroud of the Lightless. Now, Shroud of the Lightless gives you the level 20 Elemental Penetration Gem. I think the values are the same as regular penetration gems. The difference is that, well, it does it for all elements. It might be a little bit less. I wouldn't be surprised if it was like maybe, I think a level 20 penetration gem usually gives you minus 37 resist, or ignores 37 resist. So this, I wouldn't be surprised if it was minus like 30, but either way, it just allows you to use any elemental damage type as effectively or as efficiently as you would fire. And it gives you a relatively budget 6-link. The one thing about Shroud of the Lightless, though, and using Shroud of the Lightless, is that I don't know if a lot of people think this, but just in case you're thinking about doing it, you cannot buy a Shroud of the Lightless and just use a Jeweler's Touch on it. It does not work like that. So the way that you're gonna have to link, 5 socket and then 5 link it yourself, which could be kind of difficult. Maybe you could do it with Varici. I'm not entirely sure on that interaction, but I would say if that does work, that's probably the best way to do it. But I don't know. I've never 5-linked a 5-socketed item, and I'd imagine it works exactly the same way as that. But yeah. So this build, I think it's kind of going pretty well. I haven't really done too many maps beyond tier 3 at this point, just because I've been grinding out to 80. And actually, this is a good opportunity here. You can see where maybe there's some kind of yikes moments. Breaches are a little scary for me. Not as scary as you may think, but definitely not as smooth as I would prefer. The damage is there, but I think Fire Trap is just much better suited for bossing. Because, well, you pretty much have to click on, every pack, right? Other trap builds or other skills don't really have to do that. You could kind of click and clear 2 or 3 packs at least, but Fire Trap is very localized in its damage. So, yeah, unfortunately I didn't really take any big hits here, but you would have seen, in other incursions, I get into the situation where I will take a pretty large hit from some, constructs, and it's kind of a little scary, a little iffy. So, but I have a potential idea around, or I have a potential fix for that. So, 2 things. The 2 Incursion uniques. First off, where is it? Somewhere over here.
Mask of the Stitch Demon. Now, let me tell you why, first off. So Mask of the Stitch Demon, it makes your like intelligence turn into life, and then it also gives you percent. Actually, now that I'm looking at it, I think it may not work as well. You would essentially have to get Energy Shield on your gear in order for this to actually like work out like really well for you, because you would want to sacrifice, I would say, about like 2k ES for this to feel pretty good. And yeah, and I mean, it doesn't really, it would only just give you a lot of life. That's realistically all it would do, but maybe that's not really too big of a deal. But the other unique item is a Slave Driver's Hand. And now my thought process behind this is that, so right now we're using Malachi's Awakening. And Malachi's Awakening gives us blood magic, and it gives us all these flat damage values. This is essentially as if you had all of your mana reserved and your auras or whatever gave you these damage values. So maybe it would just be better, at least for hardcore. You would lose a little bit of damage for sure, but maybe it would be better just to use a regular helm in this slot, and then just use the blood magic gloves, Slave Driver's Hands, and then have Herald of Ice, Herald of Lightning, Herald of Ice, Herald of Thunder, and Anger, and just reserve all of your mana. Again, it would be a little less damage, but I think it's actually a legitimate way to give yourself extra life on this build for hardcore. But you know, that's just something that I'm thinking about, and I will get sorted, because definitely a level 21 Anger will give more fire damage than this. As for the lightning and the cold damage, I don't know how the heralds would compare to that. And yeah, so that's just an idea. But yeah, you know, it's going pretty good. Leveling was pretty easy. I was able to like phase every single boss. I did Act 10 Katava myself, like no issues. And my flasks are even like a little sloppy right now. And yeah, you know, it's all good. It's all working out pretty damn well. So let me know if you guys have any questions about the build. Like I said, Octavian does have that guide, and although I've been critical of Octavian in the past, and I could easily still be critical about Octavian in some aspects, his guide is pretty well put together from the little bits I saw of it for this build. Oh, I guess that's the other thing I should talk about. The gear that I did pick up. This is actually something I think is pretty cool that I think a lot of people haven't really thought about. A lot of people would use, like, say for this build, in Standard as well, you may find people using Essence Worm with an Anger in it. And if you want more life and maybe some more resists, you could just use a ring like this. They're really not that expensive. I think I picked this ring up for... I paid 35 Chaos for this ring. And it's pretty good. And I paid, I want to say, 20 Chaos for this ring. And so these rings, they just give you the flat damage that you would kind of get from having an Anger in your setup with an Essence Worm. So, but they also then just give you life and resist on top of it. So you're trading like half of the damage of Anger for the other potential for stats. This ring is honestly pretty good. And then, you know, this ring's the same thing. I searched for, what I did, the way I set up my search is I added cold damage to spells and attacks, lightning damage to spells and attacks, fire damage to spells and attacks, count 1, and then I added another field and I did total resistant or total elemental resistances, just sorted by resistances. Boom, this is what I got. This was at the very top. It had a prefix open. I bought it, put life on it. Great. I don't know if this added fire damage works, but honestly, this slot doesn't necessarily matter if I do start using Slave Driver's Hands. And the other thing I'm thinking about doing is you know, this build will have plenty of damage. If I get to a point where I could instantly phase Shaper, maybe I could potentially drop these boots for like Ziri's steps, or just anything else that would potentially give me more life and a little bit more survivability. As of right now, these don't give me that much damage, but you know, the 10% increased damage for each type of Abyss Jewel affecting you is pretty good. But I don't think that's very good until you get like all of your jewels and until you get all of your levels. In fact, it may not be worth using these unless you get some 2-socket ones. So yeah, that's that. Oh, another thing, I did pick up this amulet. This amulet is also, like, honestly kind of perfect for this build, and it's not perfect, but like really close to being good, because if there's anything you're a little short on, it is strength, it is dexterity, especially before you path all the way down here, then your dex gets a little bit easier, but you still need a little bit of dex. Crit multi on your amulet, you know, spell damage prefix, that's, you know, that's whatever, that's good, and then as much life and resist as possible. The only way that this could get better damage wise is if I got extra non-chaos damage added as extra chaos damage, and that is found on eye level 81 elder bases, so that's something I'm gonna, you know, try to look out for. So yeah, that's the crit fire trap build that I'm currently playing, and you know, depending on how it goes for leveling, I might actually stop playing this, you know, around like level 8, somewhere between level 88 and 90, just depending on how like how smooth it is to level. If that is the case, I'm probably gonna level the Cold Snap Trickster again, or I'm thinking about doing a Harness the Void Incinerate build with a Trickster, obviously, because Harness the Void. And as I've talked about doing that before, and I had this idea some time ago, before the Incinerate rework. So now Incinerate can hit and it could crit. So, and the only reason why I would do that is because if this build is much better suited for bossing, and I, you know, want to do bosses, that's fine, but it's not really that great for like smooth mapping right now, because it's pretty tiring having to like constantly click on every single pack. And of course this depends on the maps and everything else going on. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I have been streaming recently, so you can catch me out on twitch.tv/wabacha. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you there. See you guys later. How do I shut this off?